Thank you.
Could we hear from former Senator Bob Kells?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for giving me the opportunity to testify before you and other members of the committee this afternoon. I'm not here as a member or any lobbyist. I'm here as a resident of the South Kingstown area, as a citizen of that area, the state of Rhode Island. I'm just going to bring you back a little bit as to a little history as to what took place in 1998. It won't take more than 5 minutes. In November 1998, attorney generals of 46 states, including Rhode Island, filed a class action law suit against leading tobacco industries. That tobacco was harmful and addictive. Many of you may remember that. As a result of the law, the tobacco industry, after a court battle, agreed that tobacco was habitual and addictive, and agreed to pay $206 billion, with a B, to 46 states over a period of 25 years. The settlement is called the Master Settlement Agreement of 1998. In year 2000, the tobacco industry began to pay and distribute these settlement monies to 46 states, including Rhode Island. Each year since 2000, Rhode Island has received millions of dollars under the AMSA of 1998 and will continue to receive these monies until 2025. The purpose of the lawsuit, what was the purpose of the lawsuit? The purpose of the lawsuit was to recoup monies under the state Medicaid program for illnesses treated by the states for individuals who became ill due to tobacco use prior to 1998. That was the purpose of the lawsuit. In addition to receiving these settlement monies, Rhode Island also taxes currently $3.75 per pack of cigarettes. And as we speak here today, there's legislation to increase that to $4. This increase, as proposed, would make Rhode Island the second highest cigarette excise tax in the country, only with New York ahead of us. These high taxes on tobacco adds millions to the general treasury, and its efforts is to discourage Rhode Islanders, especially young people, to stop smoking for health purposes by paying more for tobacco for a smoke-free environment. Whatever become of that? Smoke-free environment. Smoke-free environment in this room. Nobody's smoking. Now comes the General Assembly, 217 again. The legislation proposed would remove prohibition on adults using, possessing, cultivating certain amounts of marijuana. No matter what spin is used to support smoking marijuana, no matter what spin is out there, and we're hearing it today, the fact remains that marijuana smoke is ingested into the lungs and into the bloodstream. According to the organization of SAM, you've heard it here earlier, their mission is to educate citizens on the science of marijuana and to promote health-first smart policies and attitudes that decrease marijuana use and its consequences. In 2015, crime increased 12% in Denver and Denver county of Denver, Colorado. I urge members to research what medical and public safety effects are in using marijuana in Colorado and the number of negatives using this drug. Colorado has seen increases in drugged driving, and youth marijuana use, a black market that continues to thrive and consistent rise in adolescent alcohol abuse by young people. I might, Mr. Chairman, when you have a cash business, we all know that it has a negative effect and undesirables get involved when there's cash to be made. The federal government still considers marijuana an illegal substance, which means any evidence from a background check that you have purchased marijuana from a legal retailer could affect a young person's federal student loan application, certain city, state, and federal employment positions, social benefits such as food stamps and public housing. Rhode Island lawmakers sponsoring this legislation research long-term mental effects smoking this federal illegal Schedule I substance will have on the constituency without penalty. Will this illegal substance create sickness long-term Maybe not tomorrow, maybe not the next day, but long-term, like tobacco did over the years. And what will the health care source be for these folks who cannot afford health care and depend on the system? Who will be liable? Who will be liable, I ask you, for the sickness, long-term, short-term, whatever the case may be? It won't be the federal government. They already said it's illegal. It won't be a tobacco industry either, because they don't support this measure that way. It will be the entity who said it's okay, and that's the state of Rhode Island. So we're leaving ourselves open to perhaps litigation at a class action level. Down the road, passing this legislation should not be just about money added to Rhode Island General Fund. There are other ways to gain funds, shall we say. It should be about rejecting this legislation for health and safety of Rhode Islanders. Mr. Chairman, I ask you, on one hand, Rhode Island is receiving millions of dollars in massive settlement agreement, which tobacco industry admitted that tobacco is a health risk and addictive. On the other hand, members of the General Assembly are sponsoring legislation to allow a federally controlled smoking substance to become law without penalty, increase tax revenues. I hear this thing about tax revenues, ignoring the health of their constituency. There is a definite inconsistent and contradiction here. Some would argue that alcohol creates problems, and I simply say, okay, it does. Why is it necessary to legally add more drug abuse to society? Why do we need to do that? Putting tax revenues ahead of the health and welfare of the Rhode Islanders, especially the younger generation, and the poor, especially the poor. I got to disagree with Jim Vincent on that. It's not a healthy way to add to the budget and the general fund. Members of the Judiciary Committee, I represented Senate District 2, which used to be Senate District 10, for 12 years. This district included South Providence, the west end of Providence, and the Reservoir Triangles section of Providence. Also during this time, I worked 31 years for the Providence Police Department, later becoming Chief of Police in the town of Lincoln. I worked in those communities just mentioned, and along the way created many friends who elected me to the Honorable Senate 6 different times. I have seen firsthand families devastated by drug addiction, beginning with marijuana. Decent, hard-working families whose interest was to raise their children to stay away from smoking cigarettes, who set the example by not smoking themselves. And how many in here do not smoke cigarettes and would not like their children to start smoking cigarettes or smoke marijuana? A lot of people would put up their hands. I appeal to you to here today to reject any legislation legalizing marijuana to grow and possess this federal illegal substance to become law. Do it in Rhode Island, especially for young families. Rhode Island should be marketed as friendly, business friendly, not pot friendly. If there are any questions, Mr. Chairman, I'd be glad to answer.
Thank you. Any questions for former Senator Kells? Thank you, Senator.